So just where on earth is Gran Turismo 7? Is it in development? Has it already been made, waiting for release? Will it be a PlayStation 5 exclusive? And more so, will it be a PlayStation 5 launch game? Well, today we will be talking about all of this and a whole lot more regarding Gran Turismo. So, guys, welcome back to the channel. I have had a small hiatus. I've been doing bits, been busy with the kids. It's been Charlie Boy's birthday, hashtag happy birthday Charlie. But welcome back. Remember, all you need to do to stay up to date with your PlayStation 5 and your gaming news is subscribe, ring the notification bell, drop a like on today's video. We're aiming for 500 as always. And remember to get your comments plastered all over the channel and the videos. But let's get talking about Gran Turismo 7. So Gran Turismo has been one of Sony's flagship franchises for as long as they've been around in the video games industry. The original PlayStation launched all the way back in 1995, and just 2 short years later, Sony launched the first Gran Turismo title on it. In the years since then, every single one of Sony's home consoles has seen the launch of at least one Gran Turismo title. Hell, even the PSP got a Gran Turismo release, just showing how popular the franchise is to us Sony fans. The series' presence on the PlayStation 4 has been somewhat more curious. The racing sim franchise is still very much present on Sony's 8th generation console, with Gran Turismo Sport, which is of course considered a mainline series, but it's not a numbered entry, and as anyone who's played it, they've been not particularly overawed with it. It's not been your typical traditional Gran Turismo game either. The roster was cut significantly, meaning that there were less vehicles for the player to choose, and it's left a lot of people wondering just where Gran Turismo 7 is and itching to get that game, hoping that the roster will deliver, get bigger, and more features, new features will come to the game. So we've all been waiting to hear something about Gran Turismo 7 for a while now. But with the end of the generation PlayStation 4 approaching rapidly, we've all been left wondering whether PlayStation 4 will become the first Sony console ever to not get a numbered Gran Turismo sequel. With nearly 6 years having passed since the launch of Gran Turismo 6, how much longer are we going to have to wait for its direct successor? Where on earth is Gran Turismo 7? There are quite a few interesting questions that arise when one thinks of Gran Turismo 7, with the first and most obvious one being, of course, when will it release? Gran Turismo Sport has been out for nearly 2 years now, but as per the timeline the series has followed in the past, especially with the last few installments, the next mainline series would be in line for a late 2021 release. There was a roughly 3-year gap between Gran Turismo 5 and 6, and then a 4-year gap between 6 and Sport, which means 2020 or 2021 would seem like the likely launch destination for the next installment of the Gran Turismo franchise, Gran Turismo 7, or Sport 2, which is rumoured to be coming, or whatever Sony and Polyphony Digital end up calling the next installment of the franchise. Hopefully they do just revert back to the numbered titles, Gran Turismo 7. I think that would put a lot of faith back into the series, as Gran Turismo Sport did kind of hit a lot of criticism from gamers and from critics that love to obviously, you know, rate the games. But that in turn would give another rise to another question. If those are indeed the possible launch years for the next game, what system does it launch on? Logic dictates that the PlayStation 5 will be out in late 2020. Go and check out my PlayStation 5 videos for everything, and I mean everything that you need to know about the PlayStation 5. Dual console releases, the specs, the graphics, the controller, what the design will look like. Go and check all of them out right now. But especially since Microsoft have confirmed that their own Xbox Scarlet will be out during next year's holiday window, many people are speculating that the PlayStation 5 will release at the same time. So do Sony release the next Gran Turismo as a late swan song for the PlayStation 4, or do they release it as an early big exclusive for the PlayStation 5? These are all lots of questions that not only do PlayStation 5 fans have, but long-time Gran Turismo franchise fans. If 2020 is when they're planning on releasing the game, the former option might seem pretty likely. We've seen multiple times with multiple consoles in the past that Sony isn't adverse to releasing late swan songs for their titles, even after their new system has launched. For instance, God of War 2 launched on the PlayStation 2 in 2007, roughly a year after the launch of the PlayStation 3. Meanwhile, Sony also put the likes of The Last of Us Beyond Two Souls and yes, Gran Turismo 6 all on the PlayStation 3 shortly after the PlayStation 4's release. Seeing Gran Turismo 7 coming out on the PlayStation 4 a few months before, or even after the PlayStation 5 launches, doesn't look like it is completely outside the realm of possibility. If Sony pushes back the game's release to 2021 though, it's likely they'll want the game to launch at the very least as a cross-generation title, if not a fully fledged next-generation exclusive. But there's a second, much more intriguing question to think about the next Gran Turismo title. Its launch is inevitable after all, and what system it launches on is more than anything else just a matter of timing. The more interesting question is, whether it does launch, what sort of game we are in for. For the vast majority of its life, this is a series that has offered traditional release cycles, but with Gran Turismo Sport, Sony and Polyphony Digital decided to take the live service approach. The core mechanics of Sport are top notch, as you'd expect from the series, but at launch there were many who criticised the game for not being feature complete. Its roster of vehicles was significantly smaller than many would have wanted, the overall depth of content wasn't the best, while the game was also clearly designed with a focus on the esports scene and online functionality in mind. All of these things that hadn't usually been associated with the Gran Turismo franchise in the past. But since launch, the developers have constantly pushed out new content to turn out GT Sport into a very content-rich title. New vehicles, new tracks, and even new modes have been added in over the past year and a half, while even more content is bound to be coming up in the near future. Just recently, in fact, it's also looking like the game will be getting the heavily requested rain weather effects soon. So the question then is, when Gran Turismo 7 rolls around, what sort of launch cycle will Sony go for? Will they push out a fully featured game in vein of a more traditional Gran Turismo title in the past, or will they adopt a live service approach once again? The live service model has clearly worked very well for Gran Turismo Sport. As of March 2019, with roughly a year and a half on the market, the game had accrued a total of 7 million players, already a number that's bound to go up in the coming months and years. Though there has been criticism for the game's focus on online play, Sony's continued support and title and a strong mechanical base have resulted in players flocking to it in good numbers. But that doesn't necessarily mean that Gran Turismo 7 will follow exactly in the footsteps of Gran Turismo Sport. Not too long ago, the developers suggested that Gran Turismo 7 could focus more on offline play as opposed to sport, the way GT games have traditionally been in the past, and it's something that they've hinted at more than once. Is that concrete evidence for the direction the series will be taking with its next installment? Well, no, not exactly, but at least we know it's something that the developers are seriously considering. That said, Kazunori Yamachuya also said last year via GT Planet that an online racing component will be a vital component in the next Gran Turismo title, which also means that it's likely it's going to end up being a numbered release rather than a sport sequel. The question of quality is also something that comes to mind when considering the future of the series. Gran Turismo has since its inception dominated the racing simulation scene. It currently shares a spotlight with the likes of Microsoft's Forza Motorsport and Codemasters F1 games, but Gran Turismo hasn't faded away in all the years that it's been around, which is a commendable feat. But there's been at least a slight dip in quality. That was until the mid-2000s with the release of the excellent Gran Turismo 4, the undisputed king of the racing simulation genre. It has in recent years been forced to fight for that spot with newer competitors. Gran Turismo 5, 6 and Sport, all excellent and accomplished games in their own right, haven't enjoyed the same critical and commercial dominance that its predecessors did. With Gran Turismo 7, Sony, Polyphony Digital and fans of the series, they'll all be hoping that the series can reclaim the perch that it once occupied. And ultimately we circle back to the inescapable fact Gran Turismo 7 is inevitable. What form will it take when it launches? When will it launch? What system or systems will it launch on? Or whether it will even be a numbered sequel rather than an extension of Gran Turismo Sport. These are all questions that are up in the air right now to varying degrees. Our only hope for now is that it does come out soon, or we do get some official news around the game, and that it's stunning as we know this series can so easily be when it's at its very best. Now guys, for those of you that don't know, there was an event last December in 2018 where Polyphony Digital actually did showcase some footage, and it was insatiable footage, and they did come out and say that the next game would probably be over-spec'd for the PlayStation 4, meaning that it is more than likely going to be a PlayStation 5 exclusive. there's also been very strong rumours pointing to the fact that the next Gran Turismo game, and this would fall in line with their kind of release cycle, indeed be a PlayStation 5 launch title. Not only would this boost the sales of the PlayStation 5, but it would interconnect and actually boost the sales of the next Gran Turismo game. Being a PlayStation 5 exclusive and everybody surging to the shops to buy the PlayStation 5, Gran Turismo will surely be one of the top games on the gamers' list to buy. Now, racing games have always been one of the most beautifully graphical games out there, and Gran Turismo 7 on the PlayStation 5, with ray tracing potentially being, well, we know it is officially being a PlayStation 5 feature. If they were to utilize this in Gran Turismo 7, then we truly would get the most beautiful racing game that any gaming console has ever had, especially with the graphics and all of the power that the PlayStation 5 is going to pump under its hood. So Gran Turismo 7, personally, I feel will be a PlayStation 5 exclusive, but I do think that they will release some version of the game on the PlayStation 4. Now, it won't have as many features, it won't be as graphically beautiful, and the roster of cars will probably be significantly less than it would be on the PlayStation 5. Again, this helps sell PlayStation 5s, helps sell the game, because you get more bang for your dollar by buying the PlayStation 5 and the full feature set for the Gran Turismo 7 game. As I said, Gran Turismo Sport was met with criticism, and I think that's a word anyway, or two words. But yes, it wasn't as popular as Gran Turismo 4, which, as I said earlier, was the standout game in the franchise. Many people flocked to it. There was massive roster, and the racetracks were amazing. Online is a very big part of games these days, and of course I would expect Gran Turismo 7 to have a very heavily focused kind of career campaign mode, but also the option to go online and race your friends. Again, it just gives you two options. It cuts the game up and has two very popular game modes, and with all of the graphics and things like that, it is going to be just sensational. Imagine racing your friend. You've got a Subaru Impreza, they've got a Mitsubishi Evolution, you're racing on the Nuremberg you know, something like that would be absolutely sensational. But Polyphony, obviously, as I said, last year did come out and say they are working on the next Gran Turismo game. They didn't give it an official title, but the graphics are on your screen. Some of the footage is on your screen from that event, but it does look absolutely bombastic. I really am looking forward to the next iteration of the Gran Turismo 7 game. But just when the hell will we be getting some official news about the game? Guys, that is all I have for you today. The big question is, when will Gran Turismo be coming out? If you have enjoyed this video, then please drop a thumbs up. Remember, we are aiming for 500. That is the goal today. Subscribe to the channel, ring the notification bell, and remember to get comments pasted and plastered all over not only this video, but any other video that you do watch on the channel. Remember, Toad Gaming is your #1 place on YouTube for all of your PlayStation 5 and gaming news, so make sure that you are sticking